Good morning. Today is the 15th of May 2024 and I'm going to go through my trading watch list for today. But before we start, let's take a look at the news which could potentially move the market. So we had CPI coming at 8:30 and you can see this massive reaction from it. Big push up, SPY hit all-time highs on that push and ES came up to an area we've been watching at 5300. Other news today, let's just filter it down. That's our new important news. So at 10 AM we've got business inventories, gives it 2 out of 3, and housing market, so keep an eye at 10 AM. And we've got oil news as well at 10:30, and we've got some Feds speaking as well today various times. So 12 midday and 20 past 3, so just be wary of those times. Okay, so that could move the market. So let's get into some levels. I've just made a quick update to my chart today. I've changed my supply and demand zone colours. So instead of me having green and red, I've just got it as a light white. It's actually white, but it's transparent, so it's a grey colour. Areas have been on watch this week. 5300, we've been watching that area, and that's based on a previous pivot and an area confluence as well. And we came into that area and it's rejected, so we're kind of hovering there. So let's just get my pen open, zoom in. So look at that, we had a massive big move. This big move when this CPI candle news came out, massive big positive reaction. So what I'm really waiting for is a pullback into this area. So I quite like 52.75 area, 52.73, maybe the top of those pivots there, and that level is 77, 52, 77 for a bounce. So that's my first bounce area I'm watching for. My next bounce area is if we get back down into this region here, 2 double tops, well, triple top. So we know it's definitely a solid area. And looking left, got an area confluence around top of a pivot there, lots of consolidation, bottoms of pivots. Not a massive amount of volume, but we do have this volume shelf just below. Let's just get my pen back again. So we have this volume shelf just there, and it's the point and control runs right through. So we can watch that area for a bounce as well. 52.40. If that area rings a bell, 52.50 is an area we've been watching, so that's an area on watch as well. But let's just fine tune the levels. So what I'm watching for is 52.60, this area here, which we came in 3 times, 4 times, we'll include that little bit there. And so I'm looking for a pullback all the way down to there. So if we don't bounce on yesterday's high area up, then I'm watching the previous area, which is now a area of demand. Was supply because we couldn't get through it before. But we do have a point of control, lots of volume coming. This volume profile coming around here, yesterday's low, and I do quite like the bounce around 52.40 as well, so I'm going to put my level in there as well. Let's put my alert just before we get down to that area, and I'll put some alerts in. I can put my alert in there as well, 52.77. And I'll put an alert in there. And what I'm doing is put my alerts in places where it will just come into where I want to take the long just before it, and I'll be on watch. So I've got a couple of alerts in, so they'll let me know when I get down to the levels. If we rally today and we break through this area, we've been on watch 5300. Then we've got all-time highs, which is over at 53.27 area. Let's just look that up on the daily. So you can see top of this candle, that is 53.33.50. So we can watch that area for potential rejection, but there's not much volume up there. It's an all-time high, so we can treat it as a double top. So I'd rather than take contracts when we get up there, wait for confirmation and for a reversal. And that's if we do get up there. SPY did actually hit all-time highs today. Or did it? Do you know what, I thought it had, but maybe it hasn't. That's strange. I'm sure when I was looking at it, is it adjusted? Okay, maybe not then. I thought it had come into all-time highs one day. Let's go into the hourly. Oh yeah, look, the hourly. Okay, so sorry, maybe the daily. I was looking at the daily, and it probably doesn't show the extended trading hours. But yeah, we definitely come into all-time highs on SPY, and so the new all-time high is around 526.80. We can watch out for area for rejection. If we come back down, I quite like the bounce down on these two shoulders. Got a bit of volume, and we'll mark that off, and that happens to be near to yesterday's high as well. So if we pull back down into 524 area, 524.20, we can watch out for a bounce. And we can also watch 522 for a bounce, this area where probably 522.60 for a bounce. That's probably a bit of a better area. So just readjust that one. 522.60. That's just a bit more accurate. And then no rejections. If we break all-time highs and hold above it, then we can look for continuation trend. So a pullback on a trend line and then look to go long. So back to ES again. So that's basically SPY and ES. So again, if we can pull back at 52.75, watch that area for a bounce. 52.40 for a bounce and 52.60 for a bounce. They're the areas I'm watching today. Okay, so let's look at NQ next. One thing I do like to do is just put trend lines in as well, so you can just get a general idea of how things are going. So if it breaks that trend line, we can switch our mindset from a long to a short. So NQ is not broken all-time highs, which I doubt QQQ has. So same level, same as yesterday really. If we can pull back into this level here, which is 18,500, we can watch out for a bounce. I think that's where we are right now. We're exactly there right now. So it's a high risk bounce if we were to take that. I prefer to bounce back down here though, 18,336, and maybe around 18,400 as well for a bounce. So that's really the only areas, no rejections, unless we can get all the way up into 18, this area, 18,600, 18,616. So that's Nasdaq. Let's look at Qs. Did Qs make an all-time high? I think it was equal high. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's not far off. I do like Qs for a bounce back down here, level to we had yesterday, 446.66 area, which is yesterday's high. And if we can get back down into this area as well, into this area of demand, 442 for a bounce as well. And then we've also got, taking more recent areas into account, I quite like this area here for a bounce as well, 443.40 to 444. So they're the bounce areas I'm watching. Rejections, the only one we can watch is this double top area, all-time highs. There's not much volume up there, so I'm not a big fan of a rejection. But if we can get a pullback on the trend line, we can go for a continuation trend. So let's just draw in the trend line. Something like that. Maybe we can look for a bounce coming off of that trend, and if it does come back down, we'll probably be looking at the 444 area we were just talking about. Okay, so next up is SPX. So we should see a big gap up, probably close to all-time highs. I do quite like this 52-55 area double shoulder, and we've got the all-time high there. So let's just put a level in there. So I'm not sure the actual, so around 52.64, is that all-time highs? I'm not quite sure what that level is up there. I think that's something to do with fibs I was looking at a while back. Let's go into the daily for a second. Yeah, 66. That's the all-time highs. This yellow is our weekly 24-year trend line. So I'll just see if we can find. Yeah, the only place we can see is probably 64, the area we just talked about. So that's the only area. So we can watch 64, 52, 64 for rejection. High risk because there's not much volume in that area because it's all-time highs. Trend line, if we can, let's just put these two together. So I'm just joining up the two most recent pivots. And if we get a pullback into this area, around the 52.25 area, we can watch for a bounce. But the real bounce area is probably 5200. Where's that? This area. So yesterday's low, 5200. This is the area we're really waiting for. You know, I'm going to get rid of that trend line. 5200, 5210 is the area I'm waiting for a bounce. We didn't get it yesterday. Did get it a couple of days ago. And then 5300, I might be why I had the line. And 5300 is also a possible rejection area as well, psychological number. Okay, so next up is crude oil. Looks like a little wedge is forming actually on that data candle. I'll get back to that in a second on the 5 minute. So this is oil putting in this nice little channel. If I can draw it in. Extend it a bit. There you go. So kind of in that little, not the greatest channel drawing, but kind of that area. So we can watch where we are between those channels. What I'm looking at is the change of trend and then take the two pivots there. Let's just bring it up a bit. About there. That's a. And then we've got that. That's hard trying to find. It's not the perfect one, but that's where we are. So we can watch that area for a bounce, probably back into this area of demand. So I'm watching 77 down to 76.50 for a bounce on oil, and if we can get a break over, I like not pre-market high, but yesterday's high, that means we would have broken over the 200 moving average, yesterday's high, and the point of control. We've got to get over this big amount of volume. We'll watch for a break and then a retest into 79 for the long. But we do really need to break this pivot to change trend, and we are setting up a bit of a wedge pattern. So it's a matter of it's not the best of drawing this to a straight line. So we're putting in this wedge pattern. And then it's a matter of waiting for it to break one of either side. I'll come back up into this area, break out, retest, or come back down, retest short. So they're the two areas to watch for. We've got a bounce down here at 76.50 to 77. How's it look going? Looking left, yeah, loads of volume. You can see we're coming right into this point of control area, and we've got, so a bounce looks more likely than a short, purely because of the amount of volume we've got there. Looking at the volume profile tool, we touched it once, bounce. I'm not sure what happened to touch it a second time, but we can keep an eye on that. So this is my prime area to watch. 77.50 down to 76.50. I've got my alert already there. It's been there for some time. In fact, it was there before we touched. If we go back about a week or so, I put my alert at exactly the place I wanted to find an entry, and look how close it got within a couple of ticks. So that area is definitely a significant area. So this time I'm just going to move it onto that. So I was pretty much spot on with that level before. And that's it really. I can't really see any rejections unless we get up into this area here, and that area there, let me just clone that. And that area is area of confluence. So we've got tops of candles over here, bottoms of candles, and then the more recent days tops and pivots as well. So it makes it a bit of a stronger confidence area. So one we can keep an eye on now, and that happens to be 79.84. We call it 80, just a round number, that area there. So if we get up to here, we can watch for a rejection, or we can look for a break and retest long. And if we get down to here, 77.50, we can look for a bounce. And you know, we've got a lot of volume down in this area as well, so it may be hard trying to break through this area. So that's why bounces to me looks more likely than a rejection. But if it does break, we need to break down through it, come back up, retest it, and then break down. So that's what I'll be looking for. I won't be going short on a breakout because I want to see it break and retest. Let's just put my alert in up here as well. I'm putting my alerts in so I don't need to spend time staring at charts. I can just wait for the alert to play off. Okay, so this is gold. Looking at the hourly time frame again. Looking pretty bullish. I quite like the pre-market high break and retest over this pivot. We talked about this yesterday. Need to get over this area, really. And it didn't quite get over it yesterday. It broke, came back down. Today, pre-market, did it put in a new high? I think it has. Yes, I put in a new high. So I quite like where we are right now for a bounce. But yesterday's high, yesterday's high is a better place to find an entry. So I will put an alert down here. And I will put an alert up here so I know whether it breaks out or breaks down. And that's it, that's all I can see really. These are the higher probability ones. If we come back down into this area of confluence, we've got to get through this yesterday's low and lots of volume in that area. So we can watch that area for a bounce, 23.50 and 23.43 as well for a bounce area. And that's just confidence. We've got tops of candles here, bottoms of candles, tops, tops, and then all these bottoms. Okay, next is RTY. So let's draw some levels in. I like that area there, happens to be where we are right now. So right into that area of supply, and we've got all-time highs. Let's mark it off. Up there. So we can watch for a break and retest of pre-market high, but I do like the pullback down into yesterday's low area. If we can get back down into this area here, pre-market low, I quite like the bounce there as well. So I'm watching 2095 to 2100 for a bounce, and then 2130 for a break and retest. And there's nothing in between, and we're sat in between right now, so be patient on that one. YM, which is the Dow Jones. We've got this lovely area of confluence just here. You can see that quite clearly. Tops, tops, bottoms, bottoms. Each one of these had big reactions as well. Big reaction over here, big reaction down there, big reaction up to all-time highs. And then we hesitated, so we know that's an area of interest. Broke, break and retest that area, and then a massive reaction. And we came back into it again a couple of days ago. Biggest reaction back down, and then we're back up there. And then CPI today broke it. So I'm not even gonna mess around with this one. I think this level we've already got yesterday's high area, which is 39,745 for a bounce. That's the area to watch, and I like that area, and I'm going to put an alert in. One thing you can do on TradingView, instead of just putting alerts in and have two lines, which I normally do, select the line, press Alt and A, and you can add an alert on it, crossing the horizontal line. And you've got lots of other options as well. So crossing up, crossing down, so you don't have to just do it crossing, no matter where you are. So if you want to do it crossing up, it will come down and then come back up again, and then it will alert you. I believe that's how it works. But so I've got my alert on that line, and you can see you've got an alert because you've got the yellow clock symbol. Okay, so that's all I'm watching for really. Maybe a bounce down at 39,441. I'll put the, I won't put alert. I prefer the break and retest and the bounce here. That's the only place I really like at the moment. Okay, let's look at Bitcoin next. What's this, the hourly? We've been watching this on the daily because I don't like the hourly chart. Okay, so first thing that stands out could just be left shoulder, head, right shoulder, inverse head and shoulders, and the neckline could be around this level here, or let's make that smaller, or we could have a bit of an inverted neckline. That could be the neckline there. So we can watch out for the break. Let's go back to the arrow. We can look for the break, the retest of the neckline and back up again, and we've got a few all-time highs above. Volume wise, we've got plenty of volume below, so this is like a big area of volume. You can see that where we've hesitated, we kind of consolidated there, bounced there, bounced there, broke through, rejected, bounced again, and we're kind of sitting there now. So that's an area to watch. Nothing for me at the moment, but it does look like it's setting up a massive big bear flag. Oh, so we've got this area, this trend line there. Not sure why it's doing that. Here we go. We've got that trend line there. We've got this trend line there. So that's what we can watch. And on the, we got, just take the average, and you can probably say this is a bit of a bear flag as well. So you've got two little channels forming in there, and we've got the crossover just here. So if we can break out of that, come back down and retest and look for a long maybe. Let's look at ES before we go. We've got 8 minutes before market opens to see if anything's changed. I think I said earlier it looks a bit like a look at that little wedge flag setting up. So we can draw that in. We can draw that in. I'd be interested to see how it breaks. One thing I like to do on these, I'm on the 2 minute chart, I normally do it on the 5, is to put in the fibs on the data candle. And if we're above the 50% area, then you can see where the buyers are in control up here. And if we get below this 50%, then the sellers will probably be in control. One thing I also like to do is to put in the weighted VWAP, the anchored VWAP as well. And look at that, we're going smack bang down the middle, which is kind of what you expect to see when you're on a wedge. So at the moment I can't even say what direction there is. If I'm looking at order flow, I'm going to flick over to my order flow screen. This is my order flow screen. You can see the prices putting in a bit of a wedge. Cumulative delta is putting in a positive delta, so you can see, here you go, let's draw this up on the screen. So as the price is just going sideways, putting in that sideways wedge, and then you link the pivots together here, we're putting in a bit of a higher, more of a channel than a wedge, which is kind of going in that direction. So there's a bit of divergence. So this is coming, let's put my arrow back. So we've got the price is coming down, the pivots, but the pivots here are rising. So you could say that we may have a bit of a positive divergence. And what's that mean? Potentially, we might be looking at more. That means that there might be more aggressive buying than aggressive selling right now. And as we're consolidating and going sideways, it looks like we might be putting in a bit of a build up towards could potentially see a breakout of that wedge. So if we go back to my main screen again, in fact you can see if we break out through this wedge, we can watch for 2 levels, and I'll be watching for a break and retest if I want to try and find a trend continuation, or we can look for the breakdown and the retest for the short. But I really only want to go short if we get below the 50%. It's based on the trend at the moment. We're in an uptrend in the hourly and the daily. The higher probability play would be the break and retest long, and that's kind of what I'm going to be watching for. But you know, look, we're breaking pattern formation now. Depends how we see it. and it's hard because watching order flow, we can see that we've got positive delta, positive cumulative delta building, but it's very difficult to get data because it's just a lot of volume around. But we'll see what happens on the market. But like I said, if it gets down to that 50% area on that data candle, we can watch for a potential bounce, and that's coming off the VWAP as well. But that's it really. Anything else of interest on the... So we had a negative delta there, and not quite getting the follow through on that on this candle yet. But here we go. So 260, close to, I wouldn't say it's more negative, but it's close to neutral. A delta of 105. That's, you know, it's only 100. It's quite neutral. Let's just zoom out a bit. So this is pre-market delta as well, which is a bit different. I find it harder to read. We had a big positive delta there, just seeing if there's any anomalies. So basically looking for a green candle with red delta, or red candle with a green delta. It all looks kind of as expected. You know, there's a red candle there, and that's got a green delta. It means there's more aggressive buying in that candle than there was aggressive selling. Red, 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 green, red. Yeah, it all kind of looks as expected. So we're kind of keeping that wedge pattern at the moment. We'll see how that goes when the market opens. The market opens in 3 minutes. This order flow I'm going to be putting live in a few seconds. So I'm going to close this stream, and I'll enable the order flow stream. Okay. Thank you for watching, and trade safe.